Or second item, I should say, is a review of the annual report. So at the time, Ron.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Mo and Commissioners. Within your packets, you'll have received the annual Board of Equalization report. This report is also available on the Board of Equalization page of the city's website at www.dblnd.com. I will take a few moments to run through some key points in this year's report, and we'll pause regularly to allow time to ask questions and add comments. We revealed a plan last year to start a 5-year assessment cycle where each residential property would be touched at least once every 5 years. Individual assessments were completed in Zone 2 in 2023, which consists of properties between Walnut Street East and 7th Street Northeast. Out of 618 residential properties in this zone, 88 in-house inspections were completed, or approximately 14.2%. Statewide response rates have been around 30% when it comes to responding to these requests. I want to thank those who were willing to allow me to inspect their homes. I feel that the experience was positive for property owners as it gave them the opportunity to ask questions and learn more about how property values are determined and the role they play in the property tax equation. It also allowed me to ensure that the property characteristics for those properties are accurate, allowing for more accurate assessments of values. Zone 3 will be on the agenda for 2024. This area consists of properties east of College Drive, between Highway 2 and Walnut Street East. And those letters for those property owners will be going out next month. Any questions on the individual assessment plan or the process? Okay, moving on. I'll touch briefly on the property tax credits. We have made a significant push to get the information out about the property tax credits that are available to our residents. In the 2023 legislative session, state lawmakers loosened the restrictions on the homestead tax credit, reducing the number of classifications to 2, increasing the minimum income threshold, and eliminating the asset cap. The changes and efforts have been rewarded. In 2022, there were 97 approved applications, whereas in 2023, we had 198. So far in 2024, we have 151 approved applications and are adding more each week. The homestead tax credit does require an annual application. We're still taking applications for both 2023 and 2024. Residents that are 65 or older and own and live in their own home are encouraged to contact my office or the office of the Ramsey County Tax Equalization Director for more information. The primary residence property tax credit was also created by the 2023 legislative session. This tax credit will provide a $500 credit to homeowners who own and live in their home as a primary residence. The application period for this credit has closed for 2024. We also have the disabled veterans tax credit, of which eligibility requirements have stayed static. We had 33 approved applicants in 2022, and we have 39 for 2023 and 2024. Any questions on the property tax credits? Okay. I'm not going to spend much time on the building permit information. The total number of permits was down and the lowest in 7 years at 83. Estimated construction costs were approximately $7.4 million, which is lower than the 7-year average of approximately $10 million. We hope that our partnership with Gate City Bank on the Residence Revitalization Program will spur home improvement projects within the city. We are trying to identify a way in which to effectively show permits within the city versus permits issued in the extraterritorial area. In my review of this data, there was too much inconsistency for it to serve a relevant purpose at this time. So that's something I'm hoping to have to you next year. Moving right along into sales data, the market stayed busy considering high interest rates, something that was not expected. We had 9 good commercial sales in 2023, same as we had in 2022, and above our 10-year average of 8.1. We had 70 good residential sales in 2023, which is down from 78 in 2022, but right at our 10-year average of 70.1. The average sale price of residential properties was $181,346, which was up 7.4% from 2022. The next section of the report is how property taxes are calculated. And I'll defer to the report for a detailed yet easy walkthrough of how these calculations work. I highly recommend that anyone unfamiliar with the property tax calculations to please read through this section starting on page 10. In the property valuation and mill levy section, you will see the historical and projected taxable values. We will cover the taxable value increase in a moment in the sales ratio section. In this section, you'll also see where Devils Lake sits in comparison to the other major cities in North Dakota in taxable value and mill rates. Anything to this point before we start getting into the sales ratio stuff? Okay. I don't plan on getting too deep into the sales ratio calculations, but will explain the methodology of how valuation adjustments were made this year. The State Board of Equalization has set a guideline requiring a median sales ratio that is between 90 to 100%. Our median sales ratio for residential properties in 2023 was 85.6% and outside of tolerance. Generally, within the property information we have and maintain, we can identify what property characteristics may warrant more or less increases than others. If you turn to page 17 of the report, you'll see a chart that shows the number of sales stratified by condition and the median ratio of the sales within each condition. The condition of a dwelling is the characteristic that I chose to guide valuation adjustments. I also explored breakdowns by building style, 1 story, 1.5 story, 2 story, etc., total living area, dwelling grade, subdivision, and sale price before setting on using the condition stratification. I targeted approximately 95% and applied the increase only to the dwelling value. Land values were not included. You'll see that percentage of increase applied for each condition on the same page. The other aspect that I reviewed was how many sales would be needed to have a large enough sample to justify a change. I looked closely at the fair condition when considering this and determined that there needed to be at least 1 more sale before I could confidently make an adjustment based on the sales information. Thus, I set the minimum sales needed at 5. I know that there are questions surrounding the condition characteristic, and I would encourage you to focus on the primary objective, which is to determine a fair and equitable value. The increases based on condition is just the tool used to accomplish the goal, and I'm confident that it has achieved its purpose. Having said that, I'm working vigilantly to get out and touch each and every property in the city in one way or another to ensure the data that these decisions are and will continue to be made on are as accurate as possible. After implementing the proposed value adjustments, our sales ratio came in at 92.6% and within tolerance. Any questions on the residential side before I move on to the commercial side?
Move on.
Okay. To have usable sales ratio, the state requires a minimum of 30 good sales. If the required minimum of 30 sales is not met within the most recent year, the prior year sales may be used until the minimum threshold of 30 is met. However, no more than 3 preceding years may be used. With only 9 good commercial sales in 2023, I went back the 3 allowed years, 2020 through 2022, to get above the threshold of 30 usable sales. The median sales ratio of those sales was 81.5%, and so a 14% increase to commercial improvement values was assessed. This increase brought our median sales ratio to 92.2 and within tolerance. Any questions on the commercial side before we start getting into some more stats? You may have noticed an addition of a couple new sections in the report related to 2 new data measurements that we are going to use moving forward. They are the price-related differential, or PRD, and the coefficient of dispersion, or COD. Both of these data measurements are used to ensure that valuations are being set and maintained in a fair and equitable manner. Please know there is no state requirement or standard for these measurements. However, the International Association of Assessing Officers, or IAAO, has established widely accepted professional standards for these measurements. First, we'll talk about the PRD. The price-related differential is used to measure vertical equity. Simply put, this measures how low-valued properties are valued compared to high-valued properties are valued. The IAAO has set a guideline of having a PRD between 0.98 and 1.03. If a PRD is below 0.98, it indicates a progressive trend, or that high-value homes are assessed at greater ratios than low-value homes. If a PRD is above 1.03, it is indicative of a regressive trend, or that low-value homes are assessed at greater ratios than high-value homes. The PRD for our residential properties before the valuation adjustments was 1.09. After the valuation adjustments, the PRD is 1.05. While we are still showing a regressive trend, There is work to be done, and there's work to be done moving forward. The valuation adjustments did their job in providing more fair and equitable valuations on a vertical scale. On the commercial side, the PRD was 1.06, and after valuation adjustments was 1.05. Any questions about the PRD? All right. While the PRD is used for vertical equity, the coefficient of dispersion is used for horizontal equity, or the uniformity in the sales ratio. A high COD shows that there is a large variance between the highest ratios and the lowest ratios compared to the median ratio. A low COD represents conformity within the city. The IAAO standard for the COD tolerance is between 5 and 20. The residential COD was 28.78, and after valuation adjustments was 16.55 and within tolerance. The commercial COD was 21.89 and moved within tolerance at 18.57 after valuation adjustments. Again, indicating that the adjustments made resulted in more fair and equitable valuations. All right, I'm all done with stats. Anything to this point before I close?
Ready for the
Go.
quiz.
Yeah. We may have to kind of dummy this down so for somebody like me to understand some of it,
Right.
Coefficient.
And if there's questions or anyone
dispersion,
has information, they're more than welcome to swing in.
So,
I'll close real quick here and then we
Okay.
can move on.
all right.
I understand the displeasure that results from valuation increases and possibly the manner in which they were determined. The mass appraisal system is far from perfect, and at times properties can get swept up in an increase they should not have been included in. That is why we are statutorily required to send formal notices of any property where the valuation is going to increase by at least 10% and $3,000. There were a lot of notices sent out this year, as there were 329 letters sent to residential property owners and 317 sent to commercial property owners. These letters were sent out on March 22nd and encouraged recipients to contact me if they had any questions or disagreements with their valuations. I have been contacted by 20 property owners on 21 parcels, 17 residential and 4 commercial prior to this meeting. Some were looking for a better explanation and understanding of the increases, while others requested an inspection of the property and a review of their valuation. I have provided you a list of those who I spoke to that included their 2023 valuation, what the initial 2024 valuation was set at, and what the final valuation will be for each property. Overall, I believe that all informal appeals were productive and adequately resolved. I have not been advised of any formal appeals that this board may hear today and will not have the necessary information available to offer a formal response or recommendation at this time. For those that may be here to protest or appeal their valuation, it is my recommendation to this board to hear your formal appeal and then refer you to me. I will contact you to schedule a time for us to meet and to review your valuation with any adjustments forwarded to the county for their Board of Equalization meeting. Please also know that for me to consider an adjustment to your projected valuation, a physical inspection of your property will likely be required. Regardless, I am more than happy to meet with anyone who has a protest and to review the valuation. As you address the board, please step to the podium and clearly state your name and the property's address for the record, and clearly write your name, address, and phone number on the sheet that's on the podium. Also, please keep in mind, these steps are critical for you to continue through the appeal process if you deem it necessary. Also, please keep in mind that your appeal to this board is on the property's value only, not property taxes. Taxes are levied by the taxing districts that you live in and as part of their budget process. If you are still in disagreement with your evaluation after the conclusion of the action of this board or after we meet and discuss your valuation, your next step in the appeal process is to the Ramsey County Board of Equalization, which will meet on June 4th at 8:30 a.m. in the Ramsey County Courthouse. And I would encourage you to contact the County Tax Equalization Director, Beth Black, with your appeal prior to the county meeting. I know that property value increases are not a pleasant thing, but I also want to stress the property value increases do not directly correlate to equivalent property tax increases. Yes, those who receive notices of valuation increases are likely to see an increase in their share of the tax burden. The total taxable value of the city is increasing by approximately 9.4%. Properties that had valuation increases larger than 9.4% may see a slight increase in their property taxes as a result of the valuation adjustment. while those who had valuation increases of less than 9.4% may see a decrease in their property taxes as a result of the valuation adjustments. Again, budgets still have to be set by the taxing districts, and those are the primary driving factor of the property tax rates. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Rob. At this point, are we prepared to ask for people to come forward that wish to speak? Okay. At this time, I would ask, as Rob has stated, when you come to the podium to speak, to please write your name legibly and a phone number, and please keep it as civil as we can. I know it's a frustrating point, and we do want to listen to everything you have to say, but hopefully, if you have a big concern, we'll refer you to Rob, and you can meet with him at a later time to point out all your issues that you may have. So at this time, thank you for all showing up and voicing your being willing to voice your concern. Understand anytime we raise people's taxes, it's a concern, especially
their taxes
or their valuations. I apologize. Yes. Good. Thank you. So at this time, whoever wishes to come forward, please do so now and take the podium. Thank you.
Should I just maybe put it on the side and people
That's
can
fine.
talk and then sign after?
That's fine.
Okay.
My name is Brenda Severson. I guess I just have some questions regarding my property. I just bought my home 2-3 years ago, and I know I overpaid at that time at $140. And I'm not really sure, it says something here, the total and full value is $195, but is that what you're evaluating my house at?
So your letter will indicate what the 23 value was, what the 24 value is going to be. So it would have been on the second page.
I don't have that one. My issue, I guess, is I have a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house that I added 2 doors and stained a deck. I know I'm never going to get either here. It says 152,000 or 195,000 on a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house.
So
And I plan on selling it in a few months. So I'm wondering, are you going to go, if I don't get 152 or 195, whatever you're valuing my home, what's going to change then?
So you got your phone number down?
Yep.
I can give you a call tomorrow. We can set up a time to get together to go over and take a look at your property and see if a valuation adjustment needs to be done.
All right. Yeah, does it matter too about I have a neighbor that their property puts my value down in my home by the array that their property is in. And honestly, I'm going to have trouble selling my house because of the house that's next to mine. And I don't know exactly why I'm here for this high a price for. I really have a hard time believing I'm going to be able to sell my house for this amount of money.
And I don't have specific information to your property. So that's why let's set up a time. I'll give you a call tomorrow. We'll set up a time to get together and to review it, take a look at it.
All right. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Next.
If you want to speak, and then when you're done speaking, sign this.
Jeff Clemetsrud, representing Triclem Properties, property address 1004 4th Avenue Northwest. We purchased this property less than a year ago, and my view is that should set the price, and you guys are $24,000 over that price, and we haven't even owned it a year. That is my complaint, that it should be set at the sale price.
So Jeff, after you came in and we visited, I did adjust the valuation of that property. Let me see here. So the valuation for that property that I have it set at now is $211,700. So that's the valuation that I would have after the review that I completed.
I guess that's still higher than the price that I had purchased it for.
Right.
To me, if you buy a house, at least the first year, it should be this purchase price.
And So on this property specifically, my recommendation will be for the $211,700. And then if you still don't agree with that valuation, then the County Board of Equalization would be your next step.
Okay. Is that all you have, Jeff?
That's my complaint.
Okay. All right. Anybody got? Okay.
So just a quick question, Rob.
Yeah.
So apparently his letter said it was gonna go to 226,700.
Right.
Okay, and so that was just basically you doing the stuff that you were explaining earlier and not looking at everyone fit into a category. And if you're in this category, that's the percentage you got. You weren't able to look at everyone individually. So that-
Correct. And so there were market adjustments done based off of the sales ratio information. As soon as an inspection is completed, then it turns into we use the cost approach. So then generally we're looking at replacement cost, new, less depreciation to determine the valuation of those properties.
And again, I'm confused. Isn't the value what you paid for it? Not the
Not
replacement
all
or
the time.
anything else?
I just bought a house. I paid a lot less than it's valued at. I don't expect it to lower the valuation on it. I mean, I'm not meaning to argue, but it's not all the time. I mean, it stands to reason that's a reasonable question, but it's not gonna be all the time.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, next.
Good evening. Ryan Michaelbust. Property is 320 14th Street Northeast, Devils Lake. Basically, I have a couple questions, but I think this question is most important for me. So if taxes are raised for the very good, and everybody except for the excellent or the fair to worse, how did you guys determine or why shouldn't the excellent properties also have a valuation increase?
So there was one sale in the excellent category for 2023, and that's not enough sales to justify an increase or a decrease. Whereas all the other ones that had increases or decreases, I think they had a minimum of 7 sales in each of those categories. The fair one is the one that I kind of looked at and balked at a little bit because there was 4 in that one, but there just still wasn't enough there, I think, to justify an adjustment up or down depending on what it required there. So that's how it was determined, was based off of the volume of sales in those categories. So that's why they were eliminated.
Rob, who gives you these? Where does this information come from that you have to work off of?
So specifically what? So like within we have a mass appraisal computer system where we keep all the data for all the properties. Now the data that's in there is what we're leaning on to make these decisions.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's condition, grade, total living area, whatever it may be, we can stratify them all by those different.
No, I understand that, but where does the numbers that you get to work from to say, okay,
For compliance.
there has to be, you have to be in compliance, there has to be 4 or more of this sold, and where does that come from?
Well, that's just the way I stratified it. To be in compliance in that 90 to 100% on the sales ratio that's required by the State Board of
Okay,
Equalization.
that's what I'm asking. Who sets those?
Yeah, the State Board of Equalization
So
sets that
this
regulation.
stuff comes from the state.
Right.
It's not something that you come up with.
No.
It's the point I'm trying to make.
Right.
That the state comes down and gives you the guidelines to go by.
Right.
And that's what you have to work on.
And if we're out of tolerance, when it goes to the state will come in and they'll just make a blanket adjustment to get us into tolerance, and we have no control over what that would be.
Yeah. So I went to the mayor and I went to the League of Cities where they taught us this stuff when we first took our seats here. And I just thought it was the most asinine thing ever. That, they give this computer system, load it down with everything, and you punch the numbers in that you're given, and it comes up with this dollar sign. So all this is coming down from the state. It's not just Rob walking out there going, well, that's
And
about
every city has to comply.
6%, and, so.
Okay, so in addition to that, like I'm assuming the percentages is that also dictated by the state or by
So-
law?
Yeah, to get it, that's where we're to get into compliance with our sales ratio. So we have to be in that 90 to 100%. And being in the low end of that isn't always good because then you're always doing increases. So the target's to try and get into the 93 to 95% range. So when I broke down those sales by the condition stratification, there was a ratio given in each one of those. And it's in the report. I don't have it pulled up in front of me. But so like on the very goods, I believe they came in at 81%. And so my target was to try and hit 95%. and I only did increases to the value of the dwelling. I didn't do anything with the land values. So granted, it may have been a 15% increase to your dwelling value. The overall increase may have been 14% or 13 and change or something.
One final question. When you do have enough of these excellent homes, are you going to then go back and reevaluate those as well? Or
But if I have, yeah, and next year I may use a different data stratification. I may look at the total living area and have enough definitive information to make an adjustment that way. And my goal is ultimately to get out and touch every property at least once every 5 years, so that the information we're basing the information off of is correct and accurate. Because, like when you're looking at condition or any information that's in our system, I've been in this role for 18 months. I haven't touched every property. So I'm relying on information that's old and that I didn't even put in. So until I can get all that updated, there's going to be some inconsistencies. But that's why I want to, if someone's got a concern, I want to look at the property.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
yeah. Would you like me to give you a call so we can talk about this a little bit further?
I'd like to discuss it with
Okay.
my wife first, but yeah,
Okay. And then just let me know.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Ryan. Tom?
Lamont Properties. Has the meeting officially started?
Not the city committee, we're the Board of Adjustment meeting.
Oh, okay. First question I have is for Rob. What school did you go to for to become a tax?
The city assessor. So state requires that I go through and get a class 1 certification. It takes about 88 hours of training and education classes I have to go through to get that. Well, no, it's more than that, but there's a certain level of education and required classes I have to take to be able to do this.
I don't think you wanted me to list all the property here, but I do have one that I'd like to ask about. And I got a percentage of increase of 1,467.3.
And what's it state for a reason on there for that increase?
Well,
I believe it went from exempt, potentially had a tax exemption and then came off the
to my
exemption.
knowledge, you
and that
never
would
had
be
a
the
tax
increase.
exemption on that piece of property.
Okay.
I've owned it for 25 years.
Do you have the number of the property?
You want the address?
Yeah, address would be fine.
205 Fifth Street, Northeast. And then, of course, I have some also that it's increased by 321.5.
And with your properties, I was actually, I got out and was able to do inspections of your properties
Yes.
this last year. And so most of yours are based off of those replacement costs, new less depreciation, and weren't increases based off of the market. And that's just when I went in, I took a look at the properties, I got updated information. The value of the properties was significantly low. And so there needed to be some increases that were done.
Well, it doesn't seem that way when I pay my real estate taxes. I haven't seen any decrease in them, although I just built a new house and there was a decrease on that where I live, which was very, very helpful and thankful that I got taken care of for that. But that, of course, is there for everyone, not just because I built a house. But I really feel that, we're talking 300 and some percent and 1,400 and, that's tough. That's tough, especially on a building that's not even close to the value to get it appraised at.
So do you want me to make arrangements to talk with you, or do you want
I
me to
want
get
to
hold of
talk to you
Becky?
about all of them.
Yeah, and that's fine. Do you want me
Yeah,
to?
we need, I understand that we need increases, but sometimes when you increase them in such a huge amount, I mean, even if you took the ones that I have 10, 13, 14, I don't know, 1%, and cut them in half, you're still out of line. You're still pretty rough, We realize, and I've never complained about any type of work that gets done in the city. Obviously, I have property just about everywhere that there is some type of construction, because I know we need to improve things. Another thing that really gets me upset is when you start to compare us with other cities. We are not other cities. We are Devils Lake, North Dakota. We're not Grand Forks. We're not Fargo. We're not Bismarck.
We're all the state of North Dakota though, Tom.
I didn't say that. I said, Dale, that we are Devils Lake, North Dakota.
Correct, you're correct, but the state sets the parameters you have to
Well,
live with.
Dale, I think maybe I wonder if they're as harsh as this.
There's been many communities that have let it slide for years. I think Langdon was one of the last ones and Botno was one of the last ones. They let it go for a number of years and they had to conform and people were going through the roof. I've got friends that live in Langdon and Botno, and if you get behind, you got a bigger problem we have now, in my opinion.
Are you saying that you have not had real estate tax increases in the last 10 years?
Oh, absolutely. Mine have gone up every year since I've lived here.
Okay. But that's the point I'm trying to make.
Right.
We
No.
were increasing them all the way along the line. And all of a sudden, you want to bring everything to a point. What's going to happen next year?
The
and the year after?
the one thing I'm sorry for getting off track, but one thing, valuation in my mind does not necessarily mean your tax dollar amount has to go up. It's the county, the city, the school, and the park board
I
have to
understand.
lower their mill levy. So if valuation going up is just getting you to the level what it's worth supposedly. But if the entities that are putting the dollar amount to those
So
valuations do their job, you don't have to have a tax.
Are you saying that the re-tax adjustments doesn't mean it's going to go up as far as the tax?
It doesn't have to, but
Oh.
there's some entities that say, they do their math backwards. They say, what's our maximum mill levy? What's our maximum valuation? Let's figure out how to spend the money. I think at the city, we say, what do we need to operate? And this is the valuation. Let's put the mills on it that we need to get the money we need to operate. That's my.
That sounds good, Dale.
That, I know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And
Yeah, Tom, just make sure you get your phone number on that list and I'll give you a call tomorrow and we'll get something set up.
Rick, come forward.
Mayor, members of the committee, I'm really not here to complain about the job you're doing. I do want to bring up though, and I basically want to speak to the affordable housing issue. And if you need an address, I can give you one. But basically, all these folks that are out there that are not 65 years old, they didn't get the housing tax credit that people that own their homes got. And to take year after year after year of increases, not just taxes, but all the utilities and everything, I mean, it's getting really tough on them. It is. And if we want to be affordable housing, we got to be all in as a community. And that means moving people from apartments into new homes that they can invest in the community, and we replace them with other people moving in. And, I'm really concerned about another piece of infrastructure that we have, and that's the school. And it doesn't matter what side of the equation you think we should do, whether we should remodel or whether we should build. But you know what? In 30 years, if we don't have something figured out, we're going to be in deep trouble. And it's going to be one of those things that you're drinking out of the fire hose to fix. So I say, as a community, we got to get that rudder under control. And we got to get all in, not just the city. It has to be the county. It has to be the park board. It has to be everybody getting together and help set some priorities as to what we can afford. What is the capacity of the community? You can't just, it's just like a race to the top on how much money we can raise based on these individual entities. And really, there's not that much capacity for us to do that as a community. We need to work together to figure out what our priorities are. And, everybody's got a budget. I know you've got a city budget, but you know what? We can't all have what we want. None of us can. We have to work together to have what we can afford. And I want to speak to the people that are having trouble staying in the nicest place that they can stay in, you know? Those are the ones we
I
have to
share the
look
same
out for.
concerns with you. And I know the one thing we've been trying to do is, because there's three things you need for people to move into to be able to live here. Good jobs, good school, good healthcare. That's what people look for, right? And the homes available. Well, there's no contractors or no companies that want to build here. So that's the first thing we got to try to overcome. And now we're working to get the hospital taken care of. The mayor's been working real hard on that. And then the school, it's just something that the community's got to decide either way. We got to do this because we're not going to be able to get people into nicer homes and get them out of the apartments and stuff until we have. And that's one of the hardest things is trying, you said you can't have it all. So what do you?
Well, we're not living in a land of inopportunity here.
Oh, I know.
We're living in a land of opportunity. There's a lot of things we have that others don't have, you know? And so what we need to do is really take a good focus on how do we build our community in a way that, you know, can support what we're doing and not overspend to the point where the people that are looking at coming here, they can't come to a school system because they don't feel it's up to standards. They can't come for healthcare because they don't feel it's up to standards. And we can't afford to buy a house because the cost of owning a home is too high, you know? So we got to figure that out. I don't have the answers. I'm just saying, can we get together as a county, as a city, and even as a state? You know, some of the things that you see that surround our community, I call it our community. Our community really is more than just Devil's Lake. We're surrounded by this big economy that's one of the largest economies that you could ask for. You go to some place that doesn't have the participation in the economy like our agricultural sector does, you know, they would love to have it. But, you know, at the same time, there is a huge amount of wealth out there, and they need to support it as well as they can too. So it's not just here. We got to go and make sure that when we sit across the table from somebody, we all look at each other and say, we're doing the fair thing for all of us, each and every one of us. And that means everybody has to share this load in the best way they can equally. So I'm encouraging you to take that challenge on. That's what I'm telling you. Go with the county and the rest of the political subdivisions and try to figure out what we can afford. There's so many taxing districts and different things that are out there right now. And, you know, everybody, it's like a race to the top because who knows what. This is a real inopportune time, by the way, to throw a 14% increase on most of this because we got a school vote coming up. And I think everybody can agree we need to probably do something there. That's going to be a tough one. I feel bad about it. I really do. Because, you know, having grown up here and gone through the school system and seeing the contributions that all of the teachers that made in remarkable ways, you don't want to not deny that very same opportunity to the other kids that are coming up. A lot of them are our kids, our grandkids, people that are moving in here. Yeah, taxes are, oh, and by the way, taxes, when you look at your P&L, they go up. You can't say the taxes didn't go up. The mill levy stayed the same, but we did the other side of the equation and raise the value of your property. You know, in the end, when you look at what your tax bill is, it went up. I mean, it's just plain simple, P&L, man, and balance sheet. So we got to get our,
Would you agree
anyway, I'm
they don't
sorry I've
have
taken
to?
so much time.
Would you agree, Rick, they don't have to go up if you said if the taxing entities drop their mill levy? They don't have to, but if the people that are in charge elect to leave the mill levy the same, they're gonna go up automatically.
Well, I think for those of us that maybe took accounting classes, I didn't go most of the time. There's smoke and mirrors in every way you want to slice it. I mean, you can make it look however you want to make it look. You know, taxes didn't go. I mean, what, 3-4 years ago we dropped the mill levy, right? But didn't we pay about the same amount? I don't know. The fact of the matter is, we've got a 14% increase in valuation, which I get, you know, and a lot of people would say, okay, you know what, if that's the case, write me a check, I'm going to walk. There isn't a buyer. There's no buyer. There really isn't. Just like when you look at those upper properties that are up in the higher scale, what do you got, 1 or 2 sales? Pretty tough. I don't envy your job. I'm serious. I'm not criticizing the job you did. I'm not saying that we're wrong here in what we're standing here doing. I'm just saying, God, what's our capacity? Nobody seems to care about that, You can't just keep loading down the truck. Pretty soon the tires are gonna blow, so.
This would almost be
Anyway.
more of a state issue because they're the ones that are putting us in that.
Well, then let's
90
get in there and go down to Bismarck and start hammering on them. That's what we gotta do. We can't sit here and complain about it without getting down there and doing something about it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Rick,
Points well taken.
Did you wanna, are you formally appealing, Rick? Rick, do you have a property that you want to formally appeal? Do you want me to touch base with you and follow up?
The city of Devils Lake.
Okay, so there's nothing, so,
Rob, I've never done one of these before to complain about taxes. I never have. It's not that I didn't want to. I'm sure everybody in this room has wanted to and still wants to. We know that the most sensitive nerve in the body is between the brain and the pocketbook. I avoid trying to go there. I think we got to think a little higher than that. And that starts with probably looking at everybody and trying to maybe get it down as low as you can, not as high as you can.
Thanks for your valid points, Rick. Appreciate it.
so Mayor,
No,
if I may real quick, just so everyone's aware that the way that the sales ratio is determined is based off of the assessed value divided by the sale price when there are sales. So when we have that low sale price, our market adjustments are based off of the market and the sales that are occurring within the city. And so that's how the mass appraisal system works, is we utilize those market sales in the market to determine if there needs to be an increase or a decrease. And when, 7.4% increase in sale prices, the market is showing that, and that's why we're making those adjustments. And that's how the system is set up. Just a point of clarification.
Okay. All right.
My name is Wade Shively, and my property's out in the industrial park. I'm not even sure of the address because something Summers Avenue. I just had to have a few quick comments. I think my first tax meeting was 35 years ago. And like Rick said, we appreciate what everybody does, but the one thing that hasn't changed, and this is nothing personal, but you go to the tax equalization meeting, you get kicked to another one, kicked to another one, kicked to another one. Everybody in this room's got the same concern. Our taxes are going up, they're not going down. I own a rental unit in the industrial park. Over 20% of my income goes to property taxes. 20% goes to insurance. 60% doesn't go to my pocket, that goes to the bank. If they keep going up, I'm going out of business on it. That's not good for Devil's Lake either. I know, I like Dale has kept saying, the problem with property taxes are based on values. The values over the last 5-6 years are a lot different than they're probably going to be in the next 5-6 years. So are valuations going to go back down if they go down? That's the big thing right now that's killing everybody. And it's a bad, bad time out there. I mean, like Rick said, with the cost of everything else, and now we had taxes are going up. They're not staying the same. They're not going down. We all know that. If anybody's in denial, there's got to be an AA meeting somewhere for them. And it's getting bad, folks. It's really, really bad. And I mean, everybody's in it the same. I own farmland. That's increased in value substantially over the last 15 years, and people act like it's a cash cow. I got news for you. Cash rent's going down. If it don't rain tonight, it's probably going down by next fall. The people can't keep bearing this. It's just taking too much from them. And I realize that fixing streets and infrastructure costs more and more, but it's like Rick said, it's one project at a time and priority, and the school doesn't have a chance of passing under these current conditions. It'll go down bigger than it's ever went before, and it's kind of a shame, but there's just not enough money to go around. And I'll show anybody my tax statements on my rental unit. I'm actually operating in the red because of payments, insurance, and taxes. And you know what? I've got 6 people that rent from me. I've warned all 6 of them I'm going up, and 2 of them have warned me they're moving out. So where am I going to be next year? That's all. I know everybody, it's a bad deal, but I wish that all the meetings were, I wish the township, the tax equalization board, The city, I wish everybody was in the same room because 35 years ago in Pierce County, I went to my first meeting and I got kicked to everybody, to everybody, to everybody. And you know what? I didn't get one question answered. And back then, the taxes were maybe 10% of what they are now. So do your best. Or otherwise, pretty soon in a year, if any of us are left this meeting, there'll be 300 people here. And I know you don't have an easy job. Thanks.
Thank you for your concerns. Okay.
Just the dates of the equalization meetings are set by the state. The city is required to have theirs within the first 15 days of April. I believe that the county has to have theirs in the first 2 weeks of June, and then the state has to have theirs on the second Tuesday of August. So those are all statutorily set. So we don't have any control over when this process happens. So just a
I
point.
think one of the best things we can do as a community is write our legislators, call them, meet with them, and let them know your concerns, that they're the ones that can really make the change within legislation, and they're the ones that need to be really held responsible for it.
We have, well, prioritizing all of our agencies, as Rick informed us, is getting together and prioritizing what our community needs is definitely what we have to work at. And I agree with that 100%. And that's something I want to do, but it's hard to make that happen. And, we've got a lot going on. We have a lot of good things, but we got some not so good things. So all your points are well taken. Doctor?
I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh, that's okay.
Dr. Rich Johnson, retired. So a lot of good friends here, people that own a lot more property than I do, but just one little story. One of the buildings, the building that I own in town, I'm selling to Dr. Nalubega. And what I'm looking at here is growth. I'm looking at Peter Foss, who's looking at apartment buildings, trying to build it and grow the community. And this, the tax, and I'm not going to blame you, Rob, I don't know you, but the taxation does not stimulate growth. It does not help a young doctor who wants to take over and build practice separate from Altru, wants to go out on her own and make it work. And Sunshine Clinic is going to work because I'm on a fixed income and I can help her with that. But if she was hanging out there by herself, this would kill her. And so that's the sort of thing I think you, as our leaders, have to do. I mean, it's nice to say, we all can write to the legislature, but you're our elected leaders and you're the guys we're trusting to get that voice out there and say, look, the Lake region is different. The Lake region is not Fargo, it's not Grand Forks, and that point was made. And I think, we have to come up with, as Rick said, a better solution, something that says that we are different, we have a different economy, and we have a dream. And our dream is that we want to cultivate, get this housing growing, and the only way it's going to grow, the woman who started this whole thing today, I just feel for her. I mean, your value, you pay for something, and it's praised higher, and you know damn well you're not going to get it. And if circumstances are such, you may have to leave in a year, whatever, you're screwed. And that should not happen. I mean, you should at least get your investment back. So it's just not fair, but that's my 2 cents. I think that we have to look at Rick said, the big picture. We have to invest in our community and buy local. We have to serve local. We have to take care of ourselves because the state doesn't give a crap. And I think the numbers are all great, and we can throw a lot of smoke and mirrors and we can throw numbers out and it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. It does not help our community. And I think that's the bottom line. And so, as Rick said again, we need to get together. We need to have a concerted cause. God bless you, Jim Moe, on the hospital thing. I think things are moving forward. We need to do that with our equalization, with our taxation. And we do have to look at a budget. We can't, how many snowplows ran this winter? So where'd that money go? Put that money in the bank. Let's start investing it. Let's do some other stuff, because we know it's going to snow next year. But don't raise the taxes just because we can. And I think that's going to hurt development. It's going to hurt the Foss. It's going to hurt this younger people, Dr. Nalubega. It's going to hurt the people that want to have a dream, have a huge contribution for the community. But it's, we need to pull together and kind of look at the big picture. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, okay, all right, Peter,
Just want to make sure I get on the list so you can call me about, you know.
okay.
Peter Fosso and Towns Edge Apartments, 514th Avenue, Northeast. Just a couple things, you know, I also just purchased, I purchased an apartment complex from Marlon Hefta, and you all know where it's at. You should probably just give me the money to fix that. Because,
Thank you.
But I think it's interesting that you can put a valuation on whether my apartment is in, I think it's in excellent shape. But you haven't even looked at it, and now I'm getting a tax increase. Arlen Hefta's apartment that I bought, there isn't a rentable apartment in it, and he's getting a tax increase. It's not poor to worse. And so I think that it's interesting that you don't even have to go out and look at it, but you're going to increase the taxes on these properties. And I think that's pretty unfair. And, you know, you say it's an evaluation, and I'll disagree with you, Dale. You say, oh, well, my value of a house I just bought was at a certain price, and it's no big deal. I'm not going to ask it to go down. You're not going to live there either. You're going to sell it and make some money out of it. So I think it's easy to say that it's no big deal.
Well, what happens if you buy a house from a relative for $50,000 that it's worth? Should your tax valuation go down? I mean, that stuff happens all the time.
Well, sure, but don't you think that that's good for you, and you know that's what you paid for it, and that's maybe the valuation of it. And then there's obviously
There's
gray
different
areas
scenarios.
like that, obviously too.
Yeah, just because you got a good deal doesn't mean the tax should go down on it. Or just because you overpaid doesn't mean tax should go up on it. Either
Sure.
type of thing.
But I think that you need to get on and take a look at some of these properties, because I don't think that where they fit into the category was quite where they probably should have been. And you know, I'm not against paying some taxes, even though, you know, the value of my properties went up nearly $500,000 since I bought it 3 years ago. So pretty big increase. And now I have to go to all my tenants and keep increasing their rent and increasing their rent. And these are a lot of, you know, good tenants. I'm happy to have them, but they're on a pretty fixed income too. And so, you know, it gets old having to go there every year and increase their rent. And so, yeah, take a look at it. Great.
If you make sure to get on the list. And then also another point of clarification, your properties are commercial properties. So there was a 14% applied to all improvements on commercial properties. There was no scale used to determine condition, and then prorated adjustments were done. It was just a 14% to commercial properties. So that's on those apartment complexes like that. Those are considered commercial and would have received that 14%. But we'll more than happy to sit down and go through and review each of them with you. So
And you did send out 1,618 letters and got 88 to allow you in there. So you were trying to inspect.
yeah, and those were primarily in that Walnut to 7th Street Northeast. Next year I'll be working around the city over the next.
Is there anyone else wishing to come forward to speak? Okay, thank you. Okay.
I'm Paul Sosted. I live at Sweetwater Drive. I bought my house in 2019 for $250,000. Now it's 5 years later, appraised at $312,000. The value from last year to this year went up $40,000. I guess I would like to know, how do you, when you're going around, and I never knew, apparently you inspected it, but I wasn't home. I never got a letter that you inspected it. I guess I would like, you must have some written thing when you go down and determine, okay, this house is excellent, this is very good, this is poor. You must have some criteria to determine that. I would like a written copy of that, so I could kind of determine what I need to do to get mine down in the poor category, so I don't get this damn increase like this. Because this is bullshit. You increased me $40,000 in 1 year. You assessed it last year too. Who was doing the assessing last year? It went up $40,000 in 1 year. Why didn't it go up 20 last year and 20 this year? I don't care if you increase it 40%. If it's fair for everybody, if that's what it's got to be, that's what it's gonna be. But don't single me out at a 14.9. I know she kept it under 15, but don't single me out at 15 and the guy next to me with his excellent house. I don't care if there is just one sale. There's many excellent houses in town. None of those guys get an increase. The guy with the poor or very poor, whatever it was, with no increase, they're nothing. If I would have just happened to fall into the good category, I'd have been down at 6%. I want to know how they determine that and why I wasn't even contacted that it was inspected. You guys want to raise it whatever you want, but I want it fair for everybody across the board. If it was fair for like Washburn, they're 5% across the board for everybody. I'd have no complaint. If we need to be 10, I wouldn't have any problem as long as everybody's paying it. But don't single out, don't try to put what you're estimating the condition on it is. And we don't even know what the criteria for that is. You know, you drive by, well, there's an excellent one. Oh, this guy, he's very good. There's got to be some criteria how you determine that. Is there some paper or something you can give me that's written down? Okay, this is how we determine it's excellent. This is very good. This is poor. How do you determine that? I would like a written paper to see how you guys determine this. And I want it fair for everybody.
And yeah, so
Thank
make sure you get your name and stuff down. I don't know that you're on Sweetwater Drive. I don't know that I physically touched your property. I did the properties between Walnut Street and 7th Street Northeast. The rest of it is done in a mass appraisal system, which then looks at that market information and then adjusts it based off of the market information. So now if I come out and review your property, then will be inspected and I'll switch over and use the cost allocation. So that's replacement cost, new less depreciation, unless there are comparable sales that justify an adjustment going a different direction.
Well, I thought you would have probably inspected it before I got a $40,000 increase.
So there's over 3,000 properties in the city. I can't hit all of them in 1 year. So that's why we use the mass appraisal system.
I have a question. How many people were at home when it was inspected? I mean, I wasn't.
I didn't even know about it.
So I sent 618 letters out last May for the properties between Walnut Street East and 7th Street Northeast. I got into about 88 of them. The rest of them, I just walked the street and tried to make my best estimation off of what you could see from the exterior. So now this next year, I'll be doing everything east of College Drive from Highway 2 to Walnut Street East. And I'll continue to work clockwise around the city. It'll be a 5-year cycle. I should be able to touch every property at least once every 5 years. But that's how frequently it's going to be.
Well, I live in that second area you talked about. Why is my price going up? Why is my value going up when you haven't even done it?
Again, it's the mass appraisal system to where we
$50,000.
So did mine.
In 1 year. From
And-
287.
If I may, though, you want to come forward, or would you please sign up and then have Rob get with you so that we can assess that? Please.
Yeah, the mass appraisal system is far from perfect. Sometimes properties get swept up on them that shouldn't be. And that's why the notices go out so that we can take a look at them and make adjustments that need to be made. It's not perfect. And I have no problems reviewing and looking at properties and trying to come up with a fair and equitable solution. And I think that with the ones that did come and see me before the meeting, I think that's what we accomplished.
Okay, anybody else would like to come speak? If not, thank you for your, Mark?
I said I wasn't gonna say anything. I didn't even come for this part. But, you know, we were told a couple of years ago, actually, Lawrence were told, Thompson were told, Clemens Roos were told, we're gonna remodel Main Street and everybody's gonna show up and we're gonna be great. And we didn't. We lost more stores downtown, more people, and now you're gonna go 14% on all these guys, including myself, and expect to have more people rush to Devils Lake to put their business in. They can't afford a house. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but this is not it. I mean, you got anchors of the city of Devils Lake here, and they're pissed. They're really pissed. I mean, Tom, he could just go, I'm done, walk away. These are anchors of your community. Rick LaFleur, he's an anchor. These people are pissed, and you better listen because they're mad.
Were you a county commissioner at one point?
I was.
Did you have to deal with property
I did.
valuations? And did you ever say, sorry, I can take care of that for you right now?
No, I didn't. But, you know, we went down and we talked to people in Bismarck and we yelled
Did
and
you
we
get anywhere?
screamed. And we had somebody come in and do a big assessment thing. And we had the same problem that they have. They were putting assessments on buildings that nobody even went to look at.
I'm talking egg land.
Same deal. They were appraising things at just ridiculous amounts and nobody ever went to look. I mean, maybe that's what he needs to do. Maybe he needs to start at First Street and just go up and down every street and every
And in
house.
his defense, he has
He's
said that he's
working on
gonna
that.
do that. You know, it's a one-man show. So
I know, but
if
that doesn't
know, that-
help
that-
everybody here today.
Well,
You
and
know,
now
who
he's
goes to the
willing to
grocery store,
reassess it and look at it. So that,
who goes
we
to
are
the
going to
grocery
do
store
that.
and to the gas station, and the insurance companies. I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure Tom's gonna have to raise all his rent. I'm sure he is, because
That's why we want to make it right first if we can, if it's
that's why
possible.
I think you guys better figure it out.
We,
because you
we
got a
will
lot
work
of
on it.
people upset,
We're
so-
listening, Mark.
Okay,
We are listening.
I'm just saying. I said I wasn't gonna say anything, but
Well,
I've lived here my whole life.
yeah, and you've helped increase our taxes along with it. So,
I pay taxes along with it too.
yes, as we all do. So,
Yeah, we all do.
you know, it's a fight between city, county, park board, everybody, as Rick stated, they all have priorities. We do. And we all have to fight for what we need to get. And sometimes it's, you know, the city wins out, sometimes someone else, but we have to prioritize our high expensive needs. And I agree with that, and I want to work on that. And if you have issues, we're willing to listen. And hopefully that you call them and get with them, because I understand times are not good. And we all are going to have to work hard to try to help you out. But it's a big nationwide problem. So, but I thank you for, it is a real wonderful day too, isn't it, Tom? Yeah. National Tax Day. But you have been heard. I want to tell you that. You have been heard. We will talk about it. And prioritizing our needs it's huge. And I am a supporter of the school. And God forbid that doesn't go down. We do need it. But it is going to be at the backs of a lot of people that don't have a lot of money. And that's unfortunate. But in your comment about being fair across the board, yeah, maybe I deserved a 5% increase also. You know, whether or not I didn't get one of those letters, but I probably do deserve increase. I want my property to increase in value. That means I'm going to sell it someday and have a little retirement fund. God knows I need it. No, but anyway, it's not a funny matter, and it really is serious, and we want to make sure that we can keep our community. I have pride in our downtown. We spend a lot of money in it, and yes, there are a lot more open buildings than I want to see, but we are working our best to try to fill them. We got to encourage people to come to town, and it's all about hospitals, schools, and professional people to want to live here. You know, so I'm done, but thank you for coming. We're going to finish up this meeting and get into our city commission meeting now. So, but you have been heard. Thank you.
Please,
Rob, yeah.
please make sure if you're appealing your valuation that you get your name, address, and phone number on there for me, and I will be making calls tomorrow.
You want to take a 2-minute recess?
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah, 5-minute recess.
5 minutes, okay. So that's Board of Equalization.
Yes.
Yep. Close the meeting.
Jerry.